What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball. You know, I love the game of basketball more than just about anything else in this world, but there's something inherently cruel about how sports are set up. It's the fact that you can do everything perfectly, you can go and you can win a championship, and literally the very next day, you instantly have to think about how you do it again. No matter what level of basketball or any sport you find yourself at, there's tough questions that you have to be able to ask yourself over and over and over again so that even if you're at the top, you can stay at the top. And today I want to do that with NBA teams. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at one tough question that each NBA team is currently facing for the next NBA season. So hey, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment on my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. Let's get into it. Y'all, I love when Bleacher Report gives me stuff like this. And now a lot of times, a lot of these Bleacher Report articles that we look through, I think are, interesting in themselves, right? But this just gives us such a wide range of current basketball topics to talk about in one single video. And it's been cool. I always ask you guys, and I'll ask you guys again in the comments, what do you guys do when you're listening to my videos? Because I know when I listen to videos similar to my content, I'm usually cleaning or something like that, or eating, or maybe going for a run or something like that. And so that's what I imagine you guys doing. And so I view this as a YouTube podcast type thing almost. So I just feel like we're getting a lot of cool discussions to go through. But anyway, let's start off with the Atlanta Hawks. Is Trae Young still the cornerstone? That's a great question. This is a great one to start off with, honestly. I think the short-term answer is yes. There's not many players better than Trae Young in the NBA. That's something to start off with, right? There's a solid handful, right? There's a solid handful. Is he tippity top of the NBA? No, not by any means, but Trae Young is a very, very good basketball player, especially on the offensive end, one of the more dominant players that we have in the NBA. He requires his own game planning and everything else just to try to slow him down, right? If you're going to play the Atlanta Hawks, the first question you ask yourself is, okay, how are we picking up Trae Young? And Trae Young's had some decent runs in the NBA. We've seen him go deep into the playoffs, being that first option. We've seen that he's got that attitude to really be that number one guy. The questions start to align, though, when it's okay, what type of players you could put around him are somewhat in question, because you can't really put another lead guard around him. At least that's what we've learned so far. The defense has always been a big struggle. How do you hide him right? And look, the defense was a lot better this year. Let's acknowledge that. We saw him picking up on screens and things like that, and stepping up in switch situations. That's all well and dandy. At some point, the size just does hurt you. You guys have probably heard me talk about this in my videos before. At the end of the day, just physics wins. Physics just wins at the end of the day. If you're just that much bigger than somebody else, you can win a lot of the times. And so I wonder with Trae Young, right? Right now, number one option, that's probably clear. I think if they can't start to try to figure something out this next year with kind of this newly constructed roster, I'd start to have a lot of questions and probably explore if he's better off elsewhere. But even then, who do you trade him to? What team is looking for a guy like this? Apparently the market was pretty thin on him. That doesn't surprise me, because I've already seen okay, Trae Young doesn't have the basketball. Now I have a deficient player on defense that also isn't contributing much on offense. I don't know. I don't know what it takes to get him to be more of we hate comparing him to Steph Curry all the time, but one of those guys that can run around some screens and bring that gravity through some other places on the court so that other people can get open. But I don't know, man. For the time being, he's the cornerstone, but it's the clock is ticking in my mind. The Boston Celtics, how long is the title window open? This is very reminiscent of, I guess, how I described this opening and everything, right? So Celtics kind of just walked through this NBA season, right? Was there really a ton of resistance? I wouldn't necessarily say so. Sorry, Dallas Mavericks fans. I know Dallas, they were close in some of these games and everything. Did it ever really feel like the Celtics didn't have it in control? I personally don't think so. It just kept being okay, are the Celtics going to choke this away? That's at least how I interpreted it. You look at this team, though, and the fact that they've locked this core up for a pretty long time. I mean, Al Horford's going to be gone soon, but they're actively trying to find that next big man. You see how many of them are on the roster even right now, right? So that's a big thing in itself, is that they're trying to find that next one. Are you going to find a guy that can probably space the floor and play that level of defense and also be a leader like Al Horford can? Almost certainly not. And with the way the NBA is set up nowadays, it's pretty hard to bring in a new guy like that. But I mean, you've got a lot of your core locked up, even down to Pritchard and eventually Hauser and guys like that. But I mean, Drew Holiday maybe got a couple years left or something like that, and afterwards, the rest of these guys are they should be good to go. So I'd have to imagine the next Man, and you Celtics fans are so lucky. I'd guess 5-6 years. Like this core, if they just stay together, you'll be in title contention every single season and possibly the favorites. So shout out Celtics fans, man. Next up, Brooklyn Nets. Who else needs to go? I'm just doing a quick think through of their roster, right? Like Nick Claxton obviously just re-signed. Cameron Johnson's in this picture, right? Cameron Johnson is probably a legitimate person to go. It's not as easy to trade people anymore, and you're probably gonna keep hearing me say that in this video. Like I think about like the Denver Nuggets, right? The Denver Nuggets are in this really awkward situation where because of how the rules are set up now, the NBA wants you to keep your own guys, and if you can't keep your own guys, you're kind of gonna get screwed in some ways, because like KCP left, right? KCP left Denver, and then you go, oh well, they got to replace KCP. They can't. They're past the luxury tax still. They can't go bring in another guy that's not a minimum contract. They just lost that guy, and that's pretty detrimental to that team, unfortunately. And now you go, all right, well, are the young guys able to step up, right? And so trading a guy like Cam Johnson, who's making about $20 million a year, it's not like the easiest thing to do in the world, but it's doable, right? It's totally doable. And you look at this Brooklyn Nets team, and I would say they're honestly still like trying to strip down a little bit. Like they've still got some pretty valuable NBA players on this team. I think about Dennis Schroeder. I think about Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith. I'm not saying you're going to get like a haul for any of those guys, but Dennis Schroeder's a really good NBA player. Cameron Johnson's a really good NBA player. Dorian Finney-Smith, really good like role player in the NBA. You can keep acquiring more assets, but at some point you don't want to go over that threshold maybe that like OKC has right now, where at some point all of those assets actually do become a negative, and that's a really topic to discuss in itself. But as far as Brooklyn goes, man, I'm probably trying to trade those three dudes if I can, just to see what else I got on the roster. So, and maybe bring in some other young guys and draft picks. That's probably what I'm doing. Next up, the Charlotte Hornets. Can LaMelo Ball get healthy? What have we seen out of LaMelo Ball in his career up to this point? We've seen a guy that's an extremely creative basketball player, right? Like, there's not many more free-flowing guys than LaMelo Ball. The shots he can hit from any angle are incredible. His vision is phenomenal. Even, like, a lot of his defensive instincts, even though, like, his defensive numbers themselves are sometimes low, and maybe that's an effort thing more than anything else. But, like, there's not many people that see the game better than this dude. He's legitimately, like, an all-star level player. He's really, really good. But what has he played? Like, 50 games in what it feels like 2 seasons or something like that, just because his lower body's kind of given out on him, similar to Lonzo. And that's unfortunate, man, because we're being robbed of this talent. And so I don't know how to answer this question. Like, obviously it's a good question for the article to ask. Like, I'm not a doctor, I can't speak on any of this stuff, but that it really throws a wrench in Charlotte's plan, who's they're already in like an odd situation, to say the least. Like, we're hoping that things are starting to improve for them. It seems like this new like front office ownership team is trying to turn things around for what was otherwise a pretty abysmal franchise. But man, like, I hope LaMelo Ball's okay, man. I just like watching him play. I hope they can get stuff figured out. They've got an interesting young team at the very least. I don't know what their ceiling is necessarily, but there's something to brew, and if LaMelo Ball doesn't get on the court, it doesn't go anywhere. Next up, Chicago Bulls. Who wants Zach LaVine? So I told you guys that like the new cap rules and everything were going to come into play. It is not very easy to find a Zach LaVine trade. And I want people to know that, like, obviously I have like some insider NBA info just because I am like a part of like some of this stuff. And so I can tell you people are interested in Zach LaVine. It's just not easy. Like, it's really complicated. There's a handful of teams that legitimately there is no puzzle piece way they can get to it without making other moves first. And that is an incredibly just complicated process. Now, you can say what you want about Zach LaVine, that he's like overpaid and yada yada. Everyone will say like he doesn't play defense. Early on in his career, yeah, he didn't play defense. This last year, nobody played any defense for the Bulls. So like, I don't know. I kind of look at this year as like an outlier, because like stats will tell you Tyus Jones was one of the worst defenders in the NBA last year. It's like, yeah, no, that was just the Wizards in general, man. Like, nobody was showing up for that team, and nobody was really showing up for the Bulls last year. That's just how it was. Zach LaVine had some pretty good defensive seasons during like his all-star runs and everything. So the dude got a lot better. But he's still one of the best offensive players in basketball. I mean, there's nothing that he can't do offensively. Now, playing with others, that is a question mark, that I'll say for sure. Playing alongside like other stars or something like that, like, you can criticize the winning, like, I guess to an extent, but like what opportunity has he really had? I guess another one. But who wants Zach LaVine? I think there's plenty of people that would like him. I just think the trade is complicated, and the Warriors make like the most like logical sense for a place to send him, because I think he would like fit their system. I think it'd be cool to have him next to Curry. Obviously, that's a way for them to bring in another star level player, but they kind of turned down that option or something like that. Like, does just like a Wiggins and a Moody like move the needle? It probably does for the Bulls at this point, but does it for the Warriors? Hard to say, man. Hard to say. Cleveland Cavaliers, who fits together? This is a great question. So what I tell people a lot of times, because this is where this conversation often happens, is like, hey, what do you do with two stars that don't necessarily seem to be clicking perfectly? And in this case, Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, two phenomenal basketball players. I'm a huge fan of both of them, but I think it's pretty evident this team's probably underperforming for their level of talent that they have. They have a pretty deep roster, and like they can't really seem to do much in the playoffs, right? They can't quite seem to fit it together. Donovan Mitchell is clearly like all NBA level talent. Like he's dude number one, right? So then it's like, what do you do with Darius Garland? Because they play similar positions, right? Like the way Donovan Mitchell plays the lead guard is different than Garland, that's for sure. So it's not like they're identical players, but you know, they could play the same position. What I always tell people when they ask me this, I'm like, okay, who are you going to get then, right? Like, they're like, oh, we need to trade Garland. I'm like, maybe. I'm like, for who? And if you're telling me we're just doing a Garland for Brandon Ingram swap, just like in itself, I thought that deal made a ton of sense, and I'm kind of surprised that something like that didn't transpire for New Orleans, honestly, but like New Orleans got something even better by just getting like DeJounte Murray, but I mean, that's awesome in itself, but I don't know who you'd swap Garland with that's actually going to like make the team better. So I think I'd rather just keep more of the talent together and try to figure out a way to make it work. Like somebody has to get creative and figure out a way to make all this talent work, right? Somebody just has to, because these are good basketball players. So I think you can make it work. I'm sure they're also going to talk about like Jared Allen and Evan Mobley maybe in this, and I think there's probably even more so of a question of how do those two play together, or maybe more so like, does Mobley need to be playing the center for him to get true development going for him? But I don't know, y'all. It's an interesting one. I wouldn't be just trading away these Cleveland players, though, just for the sake of switching it up. Like, I'd rather try to make the talent work together. Dallas Mavericks, how much does Klay Thompson have left? Here's what I keep telling people, right? Like, yes, Klay Thompson's been, like, hurt and stuff like that, and, like, like the meme of, like, Klay Thompson went 0 for 10 in the last game, like, yeah, no, like, it's funny. Like, if you're being serious about it, you're just, like, a moron, and I know 99% of people aren't being serious, but for those of you that, like, are thinking, like, Klay Thompson's just, like, a useless basketball player up to this point, like, you're just not watching basketball. I'm just keeping it real with you. Like, Klay Thompson's still an extremely valuable basketball player. He's still one of the best shooters that we have in the NBA, and it's, like, look, his game never really relied on a ton of athleticism anyway, and let's be honest, the Dallas Mavericks probably aren't going to put him in a Warrior-style offense, which that actually concerns me a little bit. I'm like, how is Klay Thompson, who's a microwave kind of player, going to do when he doesn't have like set shots kind of coming his way? He's more so waiting for other guys to be creators. Like, that's a different rhythm completely, and I think you saw how that impacted guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. So how is that going to work for like a Klay Thompson? I don't necessarily know, but I'm not worried about Klay Thompson, man. I think he can still go out there and play pretty good defense and shoot the shit out of the basketball for a couple more years, as long as he doesn't have some other major injury, right? I mean, that itself will knock the tank out, if you will, but I'm not too worried about Klay Thompson. Next up, Denver Nuggets. Are the youngsters ready? Weren't we just talking about this? Yeah, and they've got the two guys in question right here, Christian Brown and Peyton Watson. So like we said, KCP, out the door, right? He's out the door, and you don't have a great way to solve that problem. You're relying on minimum contract dudes. I'm really bummed Sadiq Bey went to Washington. I felt like this would have been a good opportunity for him to kind of get himself right back here in Denver. It would have been a good just opportunity for him. He doesn't fix the shooting guard hole necessarily, but it just would have been a good depth move. And so now it's like, okay, you've got Christian Brown that's kind of been the sixth man. Can we throw him in? I'm a little bit worried about that. Christian Brown's a nice player. He obviously had a rough playoffs or whatever. He's young. Like, cut him some slack, all right? Like, the dude's young. 3-point shooting, you hope it kind of comes back around. Like, he's a smart basketball player. He's tough, so that's great. Replacing the defense that KCP had is a real tough one, man, because a lot of that is experience too, and knowing where certain players are going to go, and having some of that strength that you just don't have when you're Christian Brown's age. And I don't know, man. That's a real tough one. Like, is Peyton Watson going to develop like an outside shot or something like that? Like, man, he better be in the gym getting up his like 1,000 shots every single day. That's a lot of shots, by the way. That I know that doesn't sound like a lot. That's a fuck ton of shots. But I think about Peyton Watson, and it's like, yeah, like I like a lot of the intangibles, but he's young too. It's going to take him a little bit, but they've got a couple other young guys on this roster that I'm really curious to kind of see, like, where do they go? Julian Strother was the other one that makes a lot of sense, where it's like, okay, like, is he going to turn into something? Because we kind of saw some spurts of him this year. So how do they replace KCP? Well, let's hope these late draft picks that I always praise them for getting and actually do turn into something. Next up, Detroit Pistons. Is Cade Cunningham a star? Okay, I've been around Cade Cunningham like enough to know, like, yeah, that dude's really good at basketball. And if you ask most NBA dudes, they'll tell you Cade Cunningham is so good at basketball. So Detroit Pistons fans, rejoice. I promise you, this guy's so legit, it's not even funny. He's just in one of the worst situations you could possibly be in. He's had complete incompetence around him, putting nonsense teams together around him. Obviously, he got hurt, and that derailed him a little bit. But like, Cade Cunningham is really fucking good at basketball. Like, there's not much that I wouldn't want him doing. I do want him playing the point guard. I think that's kind of the position that he is. I just want to see a good team put around him. I think this year is probably the most logical team we've had around him. I'm still really annoyed with their draft pick. That really bothers me. But I don't know. Like, I just really hope that they can figure it out. I really do. They've at least brought in some more shooters and a couple more vets to hopefully try and win them some games. They could very well still fall into last place this year. But one of the things that could keep them up is the fact that Cade Cunningham is that good. But my concern is that people are going to start being like, oh, Cade Cunningham's ass because they can't win any games. It's like, dude, a dysfunctional franchise, a nonsense team around you, and like all this coaching swapping and everything. It's like, you try to succeed in that, man. Like there's a lot that goes into developing star players, man. There's like stability alongside with talent, right? And he just doesn't get one of those things, unfortunately, and that's the luck of the draw. But man, I know Cade Cunningham's that dude. I just don't have any question about it. So let's hope Detroit can do right by him. Golden State Warriors. Is it over? Define over, right? Like, I take it they mean like winning championships. I'd probably have to tend to agree. Again, it's hard to bring in star level talent nowadays. That's why Lauri Markkanen is so highly coveted, because like you can make the money work so easily right now. And then once you have them, like these star level guys, they're kind of stuck in place nowadays. It's pretty hard to move those people afterwards. So I'd probably say it probably is over. Is Steph Curry still one of the best players in basketball? Yep, no doubt. Draymond Green, not quite what he was. He's still a really good basketball player. You're still kind of missing a legitimate center on this team. Hopefully Andrew Wiggins kind of comes back. I like the Buddy Hield pickup. Like, I think they've had a pretty good offseason all said and done. Kyle Anderson was a nice pickup as well. They've got some dudes. It's just like, look, man, at the end of the day, the team's just not that great, and I don't know how they build it back up in time. Like, Kuminga and Moody are interesting, but I don't even think they fit the Warriors offense very well at all, and I think that's where some of the development issues come in. And honestly, I think it's probably worth asking, like, you know, are the Warriors going to be capable of like really growing a talent? Like, because we haven't necessarily seen that yet. So yeah, I'd probably, as sad as that makes me, like, I think they maybe had a chance with Clay still, and I think, as crazy as that sounds, I think there was still one, but with this, I don't think so. Houston Rockets, who's part of the future? Yeah, these are the questions that I had after the draft, right? Like, it was obviously pretty disappointing that the Rockets couldn't trade that pick. I know there's a lot of Rockets fans that love this dude right here, Mr. Reed Shepherd, and why does he look so concerned here? Like, what's oh my gosh, why does he look so concerned? Maybe he's just in disbelief too, because like Reed Shepherd's journey's pretty gnarly, honestly. Like, he did not think he was going to be the third overall pick in this year's draft going into college. Like, none of us did. But anyway, like, you wish they could have traded the pick for some more veteran type players. It didn't feel like they needed another like project on their team or anything. Like, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Reed Shepherd struggles to crack the rotation a little bit after the third pick. And that's not necessarily even a knock on him. It's just they've got a lot of players on this team that they're trying to develop, and a lot of other good talent on the team. So who's part of the future, right? Like, Şengün, obviously a part of it. You're still hoping you're developing Jabari and Jalen Green, right? Like, guys like Dylan Brooks and Fred. You're probably waiting to flip them at the easiest convenience for a more star-level talent. I mean, you got guys like Tari Eason and like Tate and stuff that you're maybe packaging into something. I know Rockets fans love Tari Eason. I like Tari Eason too. I'm just saying, I promise you they will trade him for the right reason. I promise you they will. I know y'all don't want to hear it, but I promise you they will. I think Amen Thompson is phenomenal. I think he's a great prospect. So hopefully they're trying to build around him as well. But it's going to be a question, man. Like, I don't think this team's like a playoff team necessarily this year either, and that's kind of the crazy thing because that's how good the West is. So like, what do you do with all this young talent, man? How desperate do you get before you start moving them? Indiana Pacers, who takes them to the next tier? That's a great question. You look at the roster that they have coming into this year, and what like additions did they really make? They mostly just maintained the core. They brought in James Wiseman, which I'm actually really curious to see how he does. Like, I'm not too big on Wiseman anymore. I was when he was coming into the NBA. I was like, wow, this guy's a stupid talented. Like, there's no question about that. But I'm really curious to see him in a fast-paced offense, as fast-paced as Indiana is. I think he could excel in that. Like, defensively, he might still struggle or something like that. But I'm curious nonetheless. Obviously, Mathurin coming back, right? Like, hopefully we continue to see development out of Nesmith. Hopefully, like, Walker can start to turn into something because he didn't really get a chance to shine this year. Is he going to get a chance to shine this year? Well, Jalen Smith is gone, so maybe. Like, it's hard to say, right? Because like they still have a lot of pretty good players on this team that are playing that position, and I know that upsets like Pacers fans, but it's like, look, you want your best players on the court at all times. Like, that's what you're doing right now, and that's how the Indiana Pacers work. Like, they try to win every single season. That's what they do. It's them, Utah, Miami. Those are the three teams. Like, win. That's all they want to do. So how do they get to the next level from where they were at? I don't know. They kind of have to wait for the Celtics to fall apart first, or like the Knicks. Like, there's just teams that have a lot more talent than they do. These guys work their asses off, and I don't know how you could make the team a ton better from what you already have. Like, I think the Siakam pickup is a phenomenal one. I think it makes them a lot better. Like I said, I hope Mathurin comes back and is a nice player for him, but I don't know. I don't know who takes them to the next tier. Clippers, where's the off-ramp? It's probably after this season. If you guys haven't been paying attention, basically all the contracts that they have, they're setting themselves up for if they need to hit the eject button after this season, they totally can, and they most likely will. Like, I'm not saying this team's even going to be like a dumpster fire by any means this year. They've certainly got some odd personalities that they've like all mixed together into one team. But they're going to give it a go this year, see what happens, just because like there's a business sense to it, right? Brand new stadium, trying to sell things well. It was a huge investment to move them out of, I wanted to call it Staples, but crypto. And so you're looking at this squad that still has Kawhi Leonard, still has James Harden, still has Norm Powell, right? Like, you got guys like Bones that you're hoping are going to do something. They're still probably going to make a Westbrook trade somehow. Like, they got Zubats. They got good players on this basketball team. It's just like, okay, like, what's really the ceiling of them? Don't really know. And, after this season, they very well could just say, all right, we're blowing it up, man. We're not paying all this money for this nonsense team and everything. We've got no assets, so they can take all these, like, very tradable contracts that they have and just start unloading them, getting draft picks back, and that's probably what's going to end up happening. Next up, Los Angeles Lakers. What's the purpose? And I like how they have LeBron and Bronny on here. So I'm guessing what they're asking is like, are we just putting on a show for the last little bit of like LeBron's career? Like, what's going to happen, right? Some purpose beyond that might require more than the front office has done up to this point. Like, yeah, no, do they keep striking out in free agency? Yeah, that's pretty evident. Like, the Lakers' charm isn't necessarily something that people want anymore. You can go get like a metric ton of money anywhere, and a lot of people just don't see the Lakers as like true contenders at this point. Are they a really good basketball team? Yeah, I think they still do. Like, the core that they have is a good core at the end of the day. Like, they probably still need a little bit of a boost somewhere, but I think with the right coaching, they can still like be one of the top teams in the West. Like, at the end of the day, you got LeBron, AD, and you got a lot of other hella good talent, and Reeves, Russell, Hachimura, right? Like, I like that group. I really do. The Taurean Prince loss kind of sucks. And they'll probably still pick up a couple guys here and there. I love the Bronny storyline, and you guys know I see enough in him to where in a couple years I think he could be a decent NBA player. So I'm excited about that team for that reason. Where they're gonna go this year, I don't know, man. I just don't. Watching JJ Redick coach, I think, should be fun, though. They should be a very analytically sound team, so let's hope for it. Who do we got next? Memphis Grizzlies. Was 2023-2024 a gap year? Why is that the question? Like, yes, of course it was. Like, why wouldn't it be? Like, the whole team got injured. Like, man, I was at, what game was it? It was the game where Anthony Edwards threw the ball off the glass to himself and got that dunk. I just watched Jaren Jackson and a bunch of other dudes just go out there and just try to give him something. Jaren Jackson was scoring every time he was in the game. It was awesome. Like, he was hooping out there. But like, it was a bunch of like, they're good players, like they're NBA players, don't get me wrong. It's just like lower level NBA players, right? For lack of a better term. But there was plenty of upside to this offseason, right? They still got a high draft pick. They didn't really pick up like a big time free agent like they were hoping to, but they did find out last year because of kind of the off year that Vince Williams and Gigi Jackson are really good basketball players. I'm surprised like a Zaire Williams trade hasn't transpired. That seemed like a really obvious one to move because there's enough talent that teams should be interested in him. So the Grizzlies are kind of like that sleeper team that struck out on like everything that they tried to do this offseason, but I mean, this team's still really talented when you get everybody back together. So I'm excited to see them play regardless. I think they can do some damage in the West. I think they'll be a playoff team. I don't really question that. So yeah, no, it was a gap year. Miami Heat, is this Jimmy Butler's last year in South Beach? I guess, I don't know. Like, how good are the Miami Heat going to be this year? I think they've got a pretty solid roster all said and done. Like, they did lose out on, like, Martin, and that one really sucks. But, like, I always just feel like they're probably going to find somebody else. Seems like Jovic is starting to come into his own. Like, is Jaquez going to demand a higher role? By the way, his rookie season was awesome. He played so many different roles and found new ways to contribute. That is an incredibly impressive thing for a rookie to do. I know he's a little bit older than the average rookie, but nonetheless, really, really good. Khalil Ware seems like a really nice pickup. I know a lot of us really loved him. He's looking good in Summer League so far. That doesn't really mean much, but like his talent's undeniable. He's going to be grown in one of the best cultures in basketball, and he's just like something that they've really needed, which is some size and somebody that can just go really get above the rim, that can also like block a ton of shots, not named Bam. So I'm excited for him in that sense, man. I think they can do some damage because come playoff time, man, like the Heat don't go down very easily, and it's just kind of injuries this year that kind of did them in a little bit. So let's hope and let's see something. Milwaukee Bucks, what's different from last year? That is a wonderful question. The short answer is nothing, really. Like, there's not a great answer to that. Like, it's not like they made some huge pickup. If anything, I think the Malik Beasley, like, walking is pretty shitty. Like, he was phenomenal for them last year. He was a big part of why they were winning games in the first half of last season. How do I feel about the Doc Rivers thing? I don't know. He's a good leader. Like, from everything I've been told, really good leader. I think it's pretty obvious to say in the X's and O's department sometimes falls flat, especially when teams have time to really game plan for them. But look, at the end of the day, you got Lillard and Giannis on one team. Like, that's crazy in itself. Like, that, it's one of the best duos that's in basketball. It just is, and there's not much you can tell me otherwise to say that it isn't. Giannis has won a championship by himself already. Like, I don't want to say by himself because, like, obviously good team around him and everything. Like, nobody's debating that, but like with Damian Lillard, like that just kind of is an upgrade. Hopefully Chris Middleton can become something. I know they miss Drew Holiday. I know we all do. Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez are still really good basketball players. If Pat Connaughton could ever hit like a 3 again, that'd be really nice. Maybe Beauchamp becomes something for him, but I don't know. I don't think there is a huge difference from last year. Let's just hope it goes a little bit better. Minnesota Timberwolves, is Anthony Edwards a championship level #1 option? I would assume so. Like, Anthony Edwards is pretty incredible, man. Like, I don't know how to explain it any way other than, like, dude's got that dog in him. He can pretty much do everything. He's this young, so, like, yes, there's holes in his game. He's a really young player. Now, do I think that this core wins a championship? Not necessarily. I do think they've got a really interesting kind of dilemma in this sense where it's like, okay, Ant, I feel good about Ant. Cat and Gobert, you know, interesting dudes. Like, they're helping you kind of win right now. How much longer are they, like, contributing? Like, at what point when, like, their contracts are up, do you say, like, okay, do we go through, like, a mini rebuild to try to get more, like, age-appropriate talent and maybe more perfect fits around Anthony Edwards? Because I think we can all agree this isn't, like, an ideal fit. Obviously, they performed really well this year, and they played with a lot of heart and defense, and that's awesome. But, like, you still, like, just kind of struggle to think about certain ways to game plan with this team, right? Because it's not a very comprehensive team. I think they've had a phenomenal offseason so far, picking up guys like Ingles. I think they won the draft by getting Terrence Shannon and Dillingham. Like, not even that they were, like, the best options. I really like Terrence Shannon as a prospect. I'll let that be known. But, like, I just think it fit their needs, and I think it fit the prospects' needs pretty well. So I have questions more so about the core, not necessarily Anthony Edwards. The New Orleans Pelicans, will Brandon Ingram be on the team? I don't know the answer, obviously, to that in short. Do I think Brandon Ingram should be on the team? Like, that's a complicated question. It comes back to the Garland and, like, Mitchell thing, where it's like, yeah, like, is he the perfect fit next to a Zion, DeJounte Murray, like, starting lineup? No, because, like, here's what I would do is I'd layer, like, a heat map on top of each other, and I'd ask you guys, like, okay, where do we see a commonality? And you'd say all of their point of attack spots on the floor are the exact same. That's a problem. That causes congestion. That's not good for NBA basketball. This is something I have to explain to teams all the time, right? And it's just a fact. Like, that's how it works. So that's a bit of a concern in itself, but there's just not many guys better than Brandon Ingram in the NBA, right? And like, his skill set is very unique. So I'd like to just think you could find a way to make it work by switching a couple other things around and just keeping the raw basketball talent on your team. That's what I would rather do than try to go out and find something else. Because like, who else are you going to get at this point? I don't know who that is. So I'd like to think that Brandon Ingram will stick around. New York Knicks, can Jalen Brunson do it again? That's kind of the cool thing with Jalen Brunson's game, is it's pretty replicatable. Like, that's what's so fun about him, like him, Shea, guys like that. Like, they're not using like a crazy amount of athleticism to get by people. They're using a crazy amount of skill, and like, anybody can go do those things. And that's what I love about it. So the short answer is like, yeah, I totally believe Jalen Brunson can just like go do what he does all day. Like people try to game plan for him, and it's just like, other things are gonna get in the way of that, right? Like, because he's just that talented. He can get around so many coverages. He's smart. He adapts to those things. I don't worry about that shit at all. And the team got better. Like, Hartenstein lost. That sucks. What are you going to do at center? Big question. Like, Mitchell Robinson's still a quality option. He's been hurt and stuff, so that kind of sucks. Hopefully they can find a way to bring back Precious or something like that, and maybe find some other big. There's probably some options out there somewhere, but at the end of the day, you brought Bridges in. Bridges is a huge addition to this team. Him, Anunoby, like, do you turn Julius Randle into something? Like, Julius Randle could still play like a form of five for you. He's an all-NBA talent still that they just didn't have in the playoffs last year. So yeah, no, Jalen Brunson can do it again. I don't worry about it. Oklahoma City Thunder, who's the second star? That's a great question. I would say J-Dub, probably more than Chet, because I presume the conversation is between those two, considering they're in the picture. And also, the question doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. Like, I know what they're trying to get at, of like, okay, who's kind of going to be that next, like, real go-to guy for them? I think it's Jalen Williams. I think his talent is pretty incredible. Some of his tough shot making, like, his transition skills are absolutely nuts. His ability to finish, take contact, he's big, strong, plays good defense. Really, really like him. Not to say that Chet's not talented. We all know that Chet Holmgren is talented. I don't know if like Chet's like star level dude by any means. I think he's going to be a really, really good basketball player. But I think Jalen Williams like could be, if the Thunder have another good season, and if they maybe shorten up the rotation a little bit so that people can get more touches, like Jalen Williams could 100% be an all-star in my mind. Like, that's how good I think he is. Their system probably doesn't necessarily allow it, but nonetheless, I think that's where his talent is. Orlando Magic, can they score enough? My short answer to that right now is no. I don't personally think so. As good as Banchero and Franz are, I don't see them as like shot creators. Like, they're creating shots because they have to, but they don't necessarily like create space, get other people open, things like that. Like, they're not really opening up the offense with what they do. And again, I'm not saying that they're not really good players. They are. I think they still need that scorer though, and that's why I'm waiting for an Anthony Simons trade to them. It just makes too much sense, and there's a road to actually doing it that I think benefits both teams. And I don't know. I can't understand why that conversation just hasn't been like figured out. It seems so blatantly obvious to me, but who knows? There's reasons for everything that we all don't understand, and conversations that have taken place, and what people know that we don't. So I don't know, but I don't think the Magic can necessarily score enough. I think their defense is really cool. I like Franz and Banchero, and I'm not saying they can't get better at those things that I kind of had some criticisms for, but like, I don't know. I don't necessarily see that coming out of their game. And so I'd like to see some other shot creators on this team to try to make it work. And it's kind of hard to build a roster with this, because when you guys have guys like Banchero and Franz on a team, you have to be very particular as to what type of center you put on that team, right? Like, you can't probably have a Clint Capella on a team like this. You need like a Wendell Carter, a guy that can kind of step out and hit, but you'd probably like a better version of him, like maybe like a Miles Turner or something like that, right? Like, he would probably be like the perfect fit for them right now. But for the time being, I'd like to see them get like another shot creator. Philadelphia 76ers, can Joel Embiid stay healthy? I'm sure that is the question. If Joel Embiid's healthy, great basketball player, right? We'll always have the question of, come playoff time, what do the Sixers do to adjust to the fact that it's really easy to adjust to what he's doing, right? Obviously, having Paul George on the team helps a shit ton. Maxey continuing to get better and probably being the primary like guy with the ball, that's going to make it better, right? But what does Joel Embiid do to make sure he stays impactful when he's just not catching these high post-up opportunities, right? Because we all know how great he is. He's big, strong, plays elite defense, MVP candidate when healthy. Awesome. The question of, again, can he stay healthy? That's not for me to determine. It's just, that'd be ignorant of me to try to comment on that. But as far as this Philly team, man, there's certainly going to be some questions that I'm curious to see how they answer. Phoenix Suns, does this trio work? Statistics will tell you it does. And my basketball brain tells me that it does. You have three very professional leader type players that can all just go get their own shot whenever they want to. They're not bad defenders either. Like, they're smart players. So in theory, it should work. I do think that a big part of the missing kind of trio was kind of just like a real take charge leader, because I don't necessarily think like one of these guys was like a locker room like leader. I can actually tell you for a fact, because I've worked with a couple of them in the past, that they're probably not, unless something's changed since I've been there. But they're too talented of basketball players not to be good. I just think the supporting cast around them was a little bit wonky. Nurkic had a phenomenal season. Grayson Allen did. Outside of that, I mean, maybe unless I'm forgetting something, pretty uneventful for everyone else. I think the Monte Morris pickup was really good. I really like the Mason Plumlee pickup. I think the who'd they pick up? They picked up the Virginia guy, Ryan Dunn. Is that his name? Why can't I? It's Dunn. I know it's Dunn. I really like the pickup of him. He's a professional guy that's ready to come in right away, play good defense, stuff like that. So I think they've got like a good team this year. It's a lot better than it was last year, but I think there's still some question marks, and I'd be curious to see if they can find a way to bring like a true point guard in that can really steer the ship. Portland Trailblazers, does Scoot Henderson have star potential? I don't know how anybody could necessarily question that. Well, I know they'll be like, AVC, look at his stats and everything. Like, if you guys have been watching the channel, you know where I'm going with this. Like, the team was so set up for him to fail this year. It's so frustrating to me. I hate when teams pick up these guys with all this potential, and they, like, look, I'm not saying you had to have a good team around him necessarily to start, but at least like put him in a situation where like he can kind of do some things, like put a shooter or two around him and like a center that's not in his way the whole like damn time. It's just, I don't know, it's frustrating to me. And like, They picked up Donovan Clingan. I really like Donovan Clingan. They've made a couple other good moves. I really like the Denny trade. I feel like that was underrated kind of fleecing of a deal, in all honesty. I don't know. I don't feel like the Trailblazers have necessarily done enough to make it so that the Blazers don't finish like in last, like, in all honesty. Like, they seem like the worst team in the Western Conference right now, at least in my like initial like thinking of it. So I don't know how Scoot Henderson like achieves anything with this. Like, let's hope he keeps getting better. He can maybe hit some of his own threes or something like that, because don't get me wrong, there's areas for him to improve. It's just, man, y'all are making it really difficult for him to do so. Sacramento Kings, can Keegan Murray take a leap? The talent's certainly there. He's one of my favorite young talents in the NBA, especially after the playoffs when we saw them let him put the ball on the floor a little bit, and I saw him reading these offenses and like just taking his time, getting to his spots, hitting shots, creating more openings. The three-point stroke is amazing. He can catch and shoot. He can do it off screens and stuff like that while moving. Awesome, right? Defensively, he had a big step up this year. It's still not like elite, but he took on a lot better challenges and had a lot better results than he did the year before. Can you take another one? Can you be a switch defender or something? He seems plenty smart enough to do so I'd be inclined to believe yes. Like, I truly think internal development is going to be the biggest thing for the Kings this year. You keep growing this dude Murray here, like, this trio's tough, man. This trio's really tough then. San Antonio Spurs, is Victor Wembanyama already a top 10 player? I mean, like, it's probably a stupid discussion to have. in general, just to be discussing stuff like this. Is Victor Wembanyama already one of the best players in the NBA? Yes. Like, if you think otherwise, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, he's so fucking good. It's not even funny. And the Spurs have had a phenomenal offseason, in my opinion. Picking up Castle, I think, was a really nice move for them, even if it wasn't like a position of need. It's just another great character to add to the locker room, a nice talent nonetheless. So we love that. The Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes additions, they're doing the right things, right? They've got all these young guys, bringing some veteran guys that have kind of been there to steer the ship. Chris Paul makes every team better that he's on. He just does. Having Chris Paul as the lead point guard for this team, phenomenal. That's so, so cool. But yeah, no, Victor Wembanyama is already one of the best players in basketball. It's just, how do you continue to build around this team? I really like Devin Vassell. I'd like to see his game develop in a little bit different of a direction than where he's going, but it's fine the way it is right now. I hope Keldon Johnson can settle into a role. I like Sohan a lot when he's not playing point guard. I like Trey Jones a lot. Like I said, I like Castle. It's just, how do all these pieces fit together? That's what I'm really curious to see. Toronto Raptors, who fits with Scotty Barnes? The Raptors are going to be an interesting team to watch this year. I don't think they're necessarily going to be all that great, but like they've got all these kind of like iffy talents like Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, right? Where it's like, okay, like what is the ceiling of these guys? Because you guys are going to get an opportunity to really go out there and hoop this year, and you're going to get the shots and the opportunities to do so. I'm just curious to see where it goes, because they've got plenty of other good role players around them too to help support them. So I'm really curious to see who fits around them. They unlocked some things with RJ Barrett, that's for sure. Quickly looked solid for them in his time there, like I said as well. So I'm curious nonetheless. I'm curious. Utah Jazz, will they trade Lauri Markkanen? I doubt it, is my answer. Again, Utah, they want to win every game possible. Lauri Markkanen likes it in Utah. They're like, okay, fine, we're just going to keep Lauri Markkanen unless you blow their socks off with something. And from what I've been hearing, people have tried. People have tried because, like I said, he's the most tradable, the most like trade-friendly player in the world right now because he's only making like $18-some million. So it's easy to just trade a couple things over and make the trade happen and bring in an all-NBA level talent. Markkanen's phenomenal. I love him as a player. I knew when the Bulls drafted him, I was like, this guy's so good. And all they did was stick him in the damn corner, and it made me so mad. Like, this guy could be an all-star. And yes, he is. Yes, he is. The finisher is that dude. I don't think Utah's going to trade them, though. I think they're just going to try to, be patient, develop some of their own talent, and see where they can go with Lowry. Washington Wizards, is Alex Sarr a star? My draft report that I handed in would suggest no. I'm not saying he can't. I would say no. I didn't see a lot of star-level talent in this draft class in general. Do I think that Alex Sarr is already a starting-level NBA center? Yes, I do. I think he's incredibly skilled. Like, he moves like a damn gazelle for his height. He's got phenomenal defensive instincts. I think he comes in as just like a defensive monster right away. If he develops a three-point shot, that's really cool. If he develops like more of a handle or something like that, like, you've got a pretty comparable prospect to like a Chet Holmgren then, or something like that. And if we think Chet has star potential, then yeah, Sarr has potential. Because that was one of my criticisms of Chet coming in, is I was like, he's not putting the ball on the floor like that in the NBA. And in his off year, he got a lot better at it. So Wizards, take a note out, like, do that. Make him into that. Rookie season, though, a little bit concerned. Don't know who's going to be setting him up, especially with Tyus Jones probably not coming back. So a little bit worried about his development, man. Washington doesn't exactly have a great history of growing people, and even if you are starting to show some potential, Denny Advia, then they might just fucking trade you. So that's Washington for you, man. But yeah, no, those are the questions, man. I'm so sleepy. I do not sleep much as an individual. Don't be like me. Be smart and get your hours of sleep. I've been running on like 3.5 hours of sleep what feels like the better part of like 4 months now. So then that's my own problem, but I'm still here. I'm locked in. I'm gonna watch some Summer League now, a little bit while I'm doing some other work as well, because I always am. But yeah, no, you guys let me know, what questions do you have, or like touch on some of the topics in this video. Just remember to keep it collaborative, keep it clean. We're trying to be better than the rest of the internet, just because you're allowed to have a voice on the internet doesn't mean you should. So yeah, that's my message for y'all today. But hey, have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.